So last time I told you that we shall be picking up from weathering, and we are going to be looking at weathering, and we tell what is weathering. When you look at weathering, we are looking at the static process. Weathering is a static process where erosion is dynamic. In other words, for it involves the process of, or we can term it as the Earth's dendational process, which operates within the Earth's surface. This dendational process, it increases the weathering and erosion. In other words, the movement, fracturing, breakdown of rocks into smaller parts in situ. Here we are seeing how weathering it occurs and what brings about weathering. When you look at physical weathering, for it is out into the disintegration of materials, whereas the other one is out into the decomposition of material. So the difference is the other one undergoes what we call a fracturing, and this one undergoes a process of decomposition of local material. When you look at physical, for it involves, actually it is mainly in areas that are dry, where you have maximum weathering. In other words, for the physical, it is associated with weathering and erosion. When you talk about chemical weathering, for it you will be looking at only decomposition, rotting and decaying of material once the material is deposited. When you look at physical, this one is main in tropical areas and also some parts of humid areas. For the case of chemical, mainly humid areas that are dominantly wet, whereas with the chemical, areas that are dominantly humid or are dominantly wet. When we go on, we are going to be seeing other processes that may be formed as that of physical and also chemical. Weathering processes by which rock disintegration may occur. Can talk about can mention about rock disintegration, exfoliation, mention about also granule and also others. Those are some of the processes that we can talk about by physical, whereas with the chemical we can talk about carbonation, solution, hydration, and very many others. So when you look at the factors that may influence weathering to take place or to occur, there must be agents like water. Talk about temperatures. Those are the two major factors that actually speed up weathering to take place or weathering to take place. When we proceed, we are going to be looking at the factors that factors controlling weathering. The one of the things that we can talk about, we talked about. We are looking at the factors controlling weathering. The first factor they are talking about here is local composition and the structure. In other words, the factor that may influence weathering to take place can term as local composition and the structure. So how does the rock look like in terms of structure? Does it have joints? If it's not having joints, what does it contain? Is it a mineral rock? Is it a hard rock? Is it a soft rock? Is it well jointed rock? So those are some of the things that we tend to be looking at in terms of rock structure and composition. If they contain minerals, can they speed up the rate of weathering? If they are well jointed, can they be subjected to weathering? For instance, areas or rocks that are well jointed, are more subjected to what we call chemical disinterpretation of rocks, because of having the vertical cracks or vertical joints within them, so they can easily break down due to the temperatures and the changes in forced action or water and wind. So that one is about rock composition and the structure. The other, they are talking about the nature of the ground, in other words, the relief or topography. When you look about the ground slope, does it control the mechanical distribution of the rock and the massive movement of weathering? So when you talk about the nature of the slope, it has got what we term as steep slopes, gentle, and also lowlands. When you look at lowlands, those ones, they facilitate the faster movement of rock material down the slope. In other words, those areas, they are associated with what we call physical. Then when it comes to gentle slopes, they are associated with a decomposition. In other words, that implies that chemical weathering processes may be tending to take place after the material being eroded. It is deposited somewhere where chemical weathering action will also be taking place. When you go on, they are talking about climatic variations. In other words, changes in temperatures. What may they cause? If an area is experiencing hot temperatures, what will it bring at the end? So when you look at climatic variations or alternating conditions, for instance, areas that tend to be receiving hot temperatures during the day, there we usually have expansion of these rocks, whereas at night we are experiencing what we call cooling. In other words, they are contracting. So this one, that change or the alternating conditions can lead to the creation of cracks, and eventually rocks will breaking down into smaller particles. For example, for the side of physical weathering, they will be bringing about a process known as exfoliation process, where the domes are exposed after peeling off or after the surface is cleared off. However, when you go on, they are talking about the absence of vegetation is also a factor. Areas that have got vegetation, they will be influenced by chemical weathering, whereas areas that have gotten no vegetation, they will be influencing physical weathering. So those are some of the factors. When you go on, we are going to be looking at the types of weathering based on the causes. The process of weathering is classified into three. We have those ones which are termed as physical. The physical will mainly be as a result of insolation of sun's rays or temperatures. Then also talk about due to forced action. Forced action, we are looking at the influence of ice within the cracks of the Earth's surface. Then you have what we call due to friction, rubbing, or pressure or force that may be created when you rub two surfaces, what may result into that. Then you talk about the pressure, then exfoliation. With the chemical, they are referring to what we call oxidation, carbonation, hydration, chloration, then hydrolysis. With the biological weathering, this one you are looking at the influence of plants, animals, and due to human activities. Those are some of the types according to how they can be grouped or best or classified. So when you look at these sketches below, so the first illustration clearly shows how exfoliation happens, how it causes the breakdown of rocks. So they are trying to show you layers of rocks are being peeled off. In other words, the first layer being peeled off. When you see the first, where you see that line up to the other end of the diagram, it clearly shows the thickest part of the layer that still exists, whereas this part it is actually being peeled off. When you continue, they are trying to show you now when the material now is after exfoliation has taken place. Below there are some of the fragments that are being deposited there. When you go on, they are trying to show you the influence of first action, what happens when it is night, and also what happens when it is day. During day, the ice tends to be melting, whereas at night, water, when it flows into those cracks, it will be trying to expand the cracks, or to widen, or to push the cracks, which will at end cause what we have termed as first action. When you go on, we are seeing what happens in areas that have got lakes, so they are associated with weathering. So another process they are showing there is what we termed as first shattering and block disintegration. Up there, how rocks are broken into smaller particles. So the other is the chemical weathering that we have talked about, abrasion. So those are the illustration trying to show abrasion. With those few words, I think we can stop here, where we shall be picking up from next time. And this time around, we shall be looking at the geomorphological importance of weathering, the importance of weathering to an individual. Then you look at erosion as our next topic. So for now, I beg you stop here.